Wow, it's already starting. What's going on, fellas? Wasn't quite ready for auto start, but that's fine. We can work with that. Give me 2 seconds here while we set up the final things. Excellent. Put you in a little quieter. Little things for the background. Welcome to Red Mornings. Hopefully you're. I do find it weird, by the way, that we're having guys listen to this thing while at the gym, and I'm sitting here running my mouth about God knows what. Doesn't really matter though. Glad you guys are liking it though. It's going to be an interesting episode today. It's going to be about how nothing makes sense. It's never going to, and you need to be okay with that. Although that's not quite the title. What did I actually use as the title? I called it Nothing Will Ever Make Sense. Everyone is... Oh, wait, what's that? Okay. Don't even know my own goddamn show. Nothing will ever make sense. Everyone will always be crazy, and it doesn't matter. And it's interesting. I ain't smashed the liked yet, but don't count your chickens, coach. Thank God for that. So I guess a little preamble before I get started. Intro. So the server on the second channel is underway. It's 3 more days until the new update comes through. Should be in there. As you know, Mish and the other guys that call ourselves the T-Rex Army are doing some nice banter, fun wit stuff on Project Zomboid, on Minecraft. Essentially reaching out to a whole different group. Everybody's so worried about being like, I want to look like the richest, coolest guy on the thing. And we're like, you know what, let's tone it back. Let's tone it back. Let's just show guys having fun together. And until I can get enough guys together for a baseball team to do a bush league that we can film, I guess that's what we're getting. So whatever. Oh, is this going to be the Rolo talking 3 hours before getting to the topic? No. This is me because I totally didn't get a chance to do the intro like I wanted to. So here we go. I used to love TikTok. My girl would watch it on the sofa while I'm watching TV or working on something, and it would be giant tittied cosplayers dancing and lip syncing to some of your favorite top 40 hits. And I was like, oh, what a wonderful platform. And the moderator team was flat out told by the admins, you need to get ugly people off this platform. Only boost content if the person's attractive. And a bunch of ugly reporters got really mad about that one, but everybody else was like, oh, thank God. The biggest guy in the world at the time was a dude who lived with his parents and played with ducks. And the world was good and everything made sense. And then now, if anybody were to go on, you see, generally speaking, 2 things. You see middle-aged soccer moms bitching about men. You see girls in their 20s bitching about men. You see girls in their home with their kids hanging out, bitching about their husband, bitching about a specific man, which I guess is a step up. At least they've gone from talking about men in the abstract to men like on the ground. And you're like, oh, this is annoying. Where'd the big titty ones, girl? I guess they finally decided, you know what? Just open the floodgate. Let the ugly girls, let the mids have their day, right? And all was not well. And then you're like, okay, so maybe the guys are better. And then you see a lot of guys on there. And what do? And I know I'm stepping on some toes because there's a bunch of guys that watch this podcast that kind of do this. So don't take this the wrong way. We got 2 hours to fill. I got to dunk on something. It's girls will post their goofy chick talks where they're bitching about whatever. And then it's always a stitch with some dude sitting there like, or he'll give some long-winded rant as to why the lady's fucking insane. And it's all boils down to the same thing. Everybody wants the world to be consistent. Not even fair. Actually, here, best way to put it. Everything boils down to people who want rules to follow that are consistent. Not good, not fair, consistent. And the problem is they don't know how to articulate that. So that's where you get a lot of gobbledygook where people are running their mouth about all kinds of stupid shit. Start with the story. Military time. Probably the hardest I was ever worked was during, I would say, my first or second year aboard ship. 189 days sailing, which is interesting because when you're deployed, you're generally going to sail about 180 days that year. We did 189. We didn't even deploy. We were doing what they call it the Esquimalt 500, where you just do laps around Vancouver Island, which is one of the hardest to navigate passages ever. We had sails the day before Christmas. We had weekend sails. We had 1 week, we had 4-day sails, which is annoying as hell because ramping it up and ramping it down in between a sail is like a very labor intensive thing. So if you're doing that once and then you sail for 2 weeks, that's one thing. But if you're doing it every day, it just kills you. Here's the thing though. Morale was never higher. Never higher. Nobody was drunk. Nobody was on Adderall. Nobody was stressed out. Nobody was starting fights. Nobody was like worried about women or anything. Everybody was just highly motivated and working their ass off. And the big reason was because it was consistent. Everybody knew what was going to happen. The schedule was set out. We're working our balls off. It can't be changed. Can't be changed. And then once you can't change anything, once it becomes the law of gravity, everybody just got in line, started doing it. And it was nice. And I don't even want to say this like it was a bad thing or anything, because it's like, it was fun times. Some of the best fun. Got the receipts to match it. And you kind of take that same example from my life and you apply it to everything. And you realize everybody wants that. They all want a formal, structured relationship between those around them and the people that they deal with, whether it's coworkers, whether it's cops, whether it's whatever. And I noticed this, and this originally came from, and you guys are like, why is this even red pill? Well, it originally came from Athol K. Or was it Athol K? Anyways, Married Man Sex Life Primer, where you talk about the spectrum between formal and informal relationships and how they affect communication styles, which is really neat. What's the time on here? I got to keep track on the timer because I got a schedule. I got my talking points. We got to keep on it. Okay. So, communication, and this is where it ties into a lot of other stuff. So I'm going to tie in a bit of Athol K here. I'm going to tie into a bit of Venkatesh Rao, and I'm going to tie into a bit of like standard red pill, like Rollo Tomassi type stuff. If you don't know who those names are, let me know in the chat, and I'll fill you in. I'm just going to assume most of you guys are regulars, and I don't have to go into the explaining why the moon is the way it is, why the moon is round. You know. Well, see, not quite. See, Alex is in chat saying, well, keeping busy makes you feel alive. And that's sort of true, but it's not the same. Because a lot of guys are overworked right now, and they aren't happy. Anyways, conversations and relationships between people follow a spectrum of formality. On one end, you have highly formalized relationships. That means military. That's dealing with, like, if you have a lawsuit, the Amber Heard trial, for example. Super formal. And on the other side, you have informal communication styles. That is meeting somebody you've never met before in a different country. That's sexual relationships, marriages, that sort of thing. So why does that matter, and why do you need to know this? Well, the big reason is it changes your style of communication considerably depending on where you are along this spectrum. And a lot of the time when guys talk about calibration, which you may not have heard in this space, what they're referring to is understanding the level of formality in the relationship you're currently in, and the rules that govern the levels of formality that are there. And there's always rules. It's not so much like hard and fast rules, but there's, I guess, guidelines would be a better way to put it. So, for example, you're pulled over by a cop. How do you act in that situation? Well, generally speaking, the cop can tell you to do something, and you pretty much have to do it, not because it's right, not because you should, but because he can arrest your ass or shoot you in the face. So yeah, it's a formal relationship. But here's the thing. The cop gets discretion. So the cop can let you off the warning and give you the ticket. You can give the cop a lot of grief. And if he's having a bad day, he can Rodney King your ass. If he's having a good day, he can just take it with a smile. It's like, I'll have a good day, sir. Ignore it. So it's this weird one-sided informal formal relationship. But there are rules. Don't admit to committing a crime. Do you know how fast you were going? No, I do not. How fast do you think you were going? Under the speed limit. It's the only answers you can give. Are you lying to him? Probably. But that's the thing. He knows, you know, everybody knows, but there's all these little unwritten rules. But they're kind of formalized. Like everybody can know. You could give somebody a guide on how to interact with the police, which, by the way, don't. Unless you absolutely have to and get a lawyer first. That's the only rule you need to know there, but you know what I mean. So it's formal. It's good. It's open communication. Everybody has a style of communicating that shares information. The subtext may be there, but it's very, very like unimportant on things. Same thing with the courts. Lawyer asks you a question in front of the judge. The judge says it's okay. You answer the question. Like there's not a lot of room for improvisation. On the other hand, you go all the way back to sexual relationships. Okay, you're married now. What codes of conduct does that entail? And I think this is where I'll show you, and this is going to blow your mind, where everybody's talking about consistency. Informal, formal comms. This is where I talk about with consistency. You remember when people will talk about how marriage used to be, and they always say it's so much better back then. Men were men and women were women. Because you got married and you gave the covenant before God. She's not allowed to cheat. You're not allowed to smack her around. Everybody's happy. But you see this? It's like they're not, but that's not happiness. That's not happiness at all. That's consistency. Your wife doesn't have to sleep with you. Oh, no, well, she does. The Bible says she's not allowed to turn you down for sex. And if she does it 3 times, you're allowed to fuck the maid. Like, you see what I mean? It's a rule set. It's not some kind of moral imperative. It's everybody wants things to be consistent. You know why? Because our brains are fundamentally lazy. And when they're fundamentally lazy, what do they like to do? I don't want to have to think about it. I want my, what's that instinct? The spinal column. I want the spine to make all the decisions. The brain will sit here for, you know, if you need me, I'll be here. But right now, I'm just going to soak up this wonderful, wonderful caloric surplus you're feeding me right now. Kayfabe. Yeah. But generally speaking, and this is where everybody's mad at feminism, it's because they've removed the formality of it and made it an informal institution. Now, I'd argue it's kind of always been this way, but for the sake of conversation, whatever. I just realized I got my preview window up, and it's annoying me because I'm seeing me in the background of my own background, and it's driving me nuts. Get out of here, good sir. Tired of watching you run your mouth. I'm trying to run a podcast here. Anyway. So you take all those things and they've been removed. Now, I don't think feminism's to blame for this stuff. And this is not saying because I'm like holding water for feminism. It's because they've been riding the coattails. It's technologically advanced. Not gumption, not bootstraps. The reason that marriage was even a thing was because once private property became a thing, because growing crops required you to have ground, consistent ground that nobody could just take, you know, the free rider effect. Yeah, so you see what I mean? Like, these things always evolve to solve technological problems. Now, I'm not smart enough. I don't have the wherewithal to be able to tell you with absolute certainty what all the environmental changes are that are required right now that make marriage vows a recommendation, that make formal dating a non-starter, that make the separation between sexual maturity and economic maturity a thing. We could pontificate about it for hours, and that's the problem. Most guys do. And they avoid, like, okay, just look at the environment in a snapshot. What do you do about it? Basically. So what we got here, they're informal. What does informal mean? That means hard power doesn't work. There is no enforcement mechanism in the same way that a court or a police officer has. So when you don't have hard power, you have a concept called soft power. And if you've never heard about it, soft power is almost a euphemism for influence. Instead of somebody having to do something, things you shall not do, it's things you want to do. I've talked about it before with, a second here. Talked about it before. What do I call about it? Not the good enough economy. Oh, luxury branding. Luxury branding. That's right. I got to make my headers as I'm talking here, so I have to make sure I do it with proper timing, or I forget where my train of thought was going, and I have to go back to the notes and start from scratch again. We don't want that. So I see Anime's thing here. I'll get to that one in a sec. He's talking about this one book, and that kind of comes to a later point here about the, what'd you call it? Damn it, where'd your stupid chat go? How to Destroy Men or something like that. Oh, there we go. Did you see the book How to Destroy a Man Now? Interesting read. All right. Seen it, did not read it, but I also didn't read its sister copy of How to Destroy a Woman. Short answer to that, though, is it's just somebody grifting by tapping into people's outrage. But I'm curious, since you've read the book. Okay, where do we leave off? Oh, yes, luxury branding. Yeah, so luxury branding. The world makes no sense, right? So what do you do about that? Well, that's the thing. It makes no sense because there's no formal instructions for anything. And this is largely what I would say is the feminization of things. Because like I said before, guys want consistency, right? I'll put up with any kind of bullshit as long as there's consistency. And that's generally speaking, when people talk about the TradCon, the way things used to be, that's what they want. They want a world of like rules. They want the Vulcan land where as long as you tell me what to think and what to do, and as long as I follow your orders, everything will be good and I'll have a problem-free life. And there's a reason that it's called a covert contract now, because it's attached to that ancient style. Now, I don't even know if it was ever there. It might not have ever been there, because that's the problem in the past. The only thing, like, we don't have accurate portrayals of the past. This whole idea of seeing average person's life documented, something that's only been out for like the last 10, 15 years. Before then, you would see aristocracy, marketing, and the church scripture. So everything was marketing back then. That's why all the TradCons, for some reason, their ideal life looks like a cigarette ad from the 1960s. I don't know what to tell you other than, Norman Rockwell was right. Fuck, whatever. Okay. Oh. Make a copy on this one too. I'm taking the notes on your things. We'll probably get to that at the end because this is going to be a bit shorter because I got to do... Oh, that's the other thing. So yeah, I'm doing Rule 0 this week, and it's going to be about... I don't know if you've seen the thing yet, but yeah, it's male role models and why guys are idiots for having them. It'll be kind of good. So I don't want to turn this into just like a ranting on the trads. I do that enough, God knows, as it is. The point is, what can you take from this stuff, right? And so the world makes no sense because formal things don't exist anymore. And you kind of see that whenever you see people talking about how feminism is infiltrating institutions and blah, blah, blah. Again, it's riding the coattails of a technological change. As the world gets safer, the power of men to influence others is waning. And I don't mean that in like a hyperbolic way. I just mean when things are dangerous, men being in charge is good. It's like, here, cottage industry. Your cabin's in the middle of nowhere. I want a man in this house because anybody who comes down that road can rape me and nobody can do anything about it. So the best weapon for me is a man. And so all he asks in return is the authority to, run his house without being cucked by his wife. She's like, yeah, fine, fair. Fair. And the only people there were running around sleeping with each other were like the aristocracy that lived in the cities. And it's like, whatever. Rich people can do what rich people do. I don't think they had honor killings back then. So even then, feminism kind of took over from Victorian England. Did he just make an honor killing joke? I think he did. Okay, where'd I leave off? Fucking spilling coffee everywhere like a pleb. What is wrong with me? Game is kind of like one of the equalizers of this, by the way. Because everybody's always wondering, like, what do you do about this? You don't bring back... We want to bring things back to the way they used to be. I'm like, well, they're not coming back. It's a technological change. I've talked about it before. I think it was the last episode where I brought up the separation between economic and sexual maturity. So I'm not going to go over the point again there. The game is the great equalizer. And I know a lot of guys say that, and you hear it. It's a nice platitude. It's catchy. It fits on a poster in your bed frame. It's something you could repeat on the drive home. It's something you can say when a girl shoots you down at the bar. It's like mental point of origin, but there actually is some meaning to it. It's like game really is the great equalizer. And what game is maximizing your ability to navigate informal hierarchies. It's basically it. If you want to talk about it in a nerd term, think of it as like do you remember when VLANs became the big thing? And everybody was talking about VLANs again? And everybody's classical, hubs or whatever types of infrastructure they had for networks kind of went the way of the dodo. It's the same thing, but it's with people, My alpha male 42069 role model for the real red pill. Absolutely. Hey, what's up, twin? How's it going? Anyways, yeah, so it's game. And what is game? Game is influence. Everybody's like, well, you can't manipulate people. It's like, well, everybody can manipulate people. It's not hard. A baby cries, a mom comes running to it. That's manipulation. Is that wrong? No, it's different now because it's a baby. Oh, fair enough. Well, when a girl's in trouble and she starts crying and then some dude comes to help her out, she's manipulating him. Is that a bad thing? Oh, no. She was going to get raped. He was there to save her. Thank God for all that stuff. Oh, that's great. So I guess it's only manipulation if a guy does it then. Well, that's different. Okay, yeah. And you can have this conversation with everybody and you'll find it. It basically boils down to that. Is it bad or is it good? Is a man doing it? Then it's bad. Is a man not doing it? Well, then it's good. Are they doing it to a man? Well, that's not so bad. Now, this shouldn't really bother you. I know a lot of guys use this to get you amped up in fear. Like, God damn it, those feminists and the bitches is doing it. You're just like, fuck, slow down, man. The only reason this works is because you're complicit in it. You're like deferring to female authority. When a girl tells you that's bad when you're doing it, and then you believe her, you just made it real. So yeah. Now you're confused. I don't get it. The world doesn't make sense. Somebody accused me of something for their own best interest. I bought into that, and now my life is worse off for it. Why can't the world make sense? If only there was something you could do at some point in this journey of becoming your own slave that could stop all this happening. And if only there was a book to talk about becoming your own mental point of origin and not letting other people judge you, some kind of assertiveness training, some kind of way that you could learn to say no and not feel guilty about it, if only. And I harp on those two books a lot. If you guys are new to the channel, I'm talking about Robert Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy and Manuel Smith's When I Say No, I Feel Guilty. Fundamental red-pilled texts. I'd say they're the books of Genesis and whatever comes after Genesis. Well, meanwhile, Rollo is like New Testament stuff anyway. Because, and I see it all the time. So if you don't know, I got a Patreon community. It's a pretty good group of guys. We basically go over field reports. I wish I could say it's some kind of war room community, but it's not. Nothing so stupid. It's just guys come in with a specific problem in their life they got to fix, usually related to women, but oftentimes it's related to things around that. Women just tend to be like the thing that brought it to the forefront. And they'll be in for like a year. They'll be in for 2 years. They think they're making good progress. They think they're making great progress. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And then when that thing happens, every time it happens, you end up going back to like the first chapter of the first book, of the first thing you learn when you're first starting to become red-pilled, like a covert contract or an easy assertiveness thing. And every time you go there, in fact, if the guys were just there this week, we had a great example of that. I'm not going to go into details because that's the thing about the community. I don't talk about it outside of the group. The discretion's kind of a big thing, but it's hilarious. It's just, you find that out. And it's always like 2 years in. The guy will be 2 years into learning this stuff and talking about red pill. He's like, oh, I've seen all the fresh and fits and I know what I'm doing. Or sometimes they even really know what they're doing. They're like, I've read all the books. I've done the practice. My sex life has increased tenfold. Shit you not, tenfold. From like once a month to 10 times a month or 20 times a month, you know, shit like that. And then it's just all of a sudden. And then you almost can tell that the guy is getting it. And that's the one good thing about. So like red pill's never about, like, you're never going to get perfect. You're never going to never make a mistake. The thing about being red pilled that's nice is when you do make the mistake, how quickly you catch it and how easily you can formulate a game plan to not make that mistake or recover from it, or at least suffer through it with as least amount of suffering as possible. That's the part I enjoy. So you'll see it, a guy telling a story, you know, been here for 2 years, I know what I'm doing, solving it, this went well, and then there's this problem here. And then you watch as he writes his field report about the problem he's having, you can see him slowly understand the solution himself. So by the time he's at the last chapter, or the last like section of whatever his field report is, he goes, all right, maybe I'm thinking I probably need to do this and this. And it's usually something simple like, okay, it's a covert contract. I need to reevaluate why I want somebody to do this. Or I just realized I'm making them my judge. What should I do about it? And there's always like a question at the end because usually they're like unsure about it or sometimes just want to ping off of it, but they get it. And I like that. Again, it all comes back to the luxury branding. They understand like I can't force somebody to do things I don't want to do. I can't ham-fistedly manipulate people because I have no hard power backing it. And overt manipulation only works because of that. You know? So when you don't have that, what do you have? Well, you have influence. And then they realize, okay, I'm not acting attractive enough. And I don't mean just I don't go to work out at the gym more, bro. Like, it's part of it, but that's not what I mean here. What I mean here is something more fundamental. Like, it's my life's not exciting. My boundaries don't have teeth to them. People aren't people aren't worried about losing you. Doesn't even matter. Maybe you will lose them too, but if they don't believe it, you basically have to pull it. You have to pull the card. And I love it because those guys understand, like, the world doesn't make sense. And that's okay, because they were like, okay, the world doesn't make sense. So take the things that concern me, shrink it out, right? So what can I do? I can't stop feminism. I can't stop the politics. I can't stop this. All right, so focus on my job, but focus on my family. Well, you can't change women, and the wife doesn't do what you want her to do, and the kids don't do what they want you to do, and they're just all over the place, and they're doing whatever. And I don't understand that. It makes no sense. All right, so shape it in. And you always end up in the same spot. Like, my boss is fucked. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, yeah, well, you can't really affect that. And then guys finally figure it out. In order for the world to make sense, you have to make your world small enough to where you were the only thing in it. Heaven forbid, the mental point of origin, you know? Morning, Torsha. Tuber, $10,000 war room, guys. I review applications for $300 a pop. I proofread them before the review for $200. Well, thank God for that. I like this. You guys have a nice flippant way of looking at it, same as me. It's always good. I started half an hour ago. Check the time. You're late. All right. I forgot. I totally got to remember to start doing these more often.
Not Ryan Stone. I think he's the most important guy in the world. Ryan Stone. Give a about Ryan Stone. Me and him have gone back and forth. Blah blah. Yeah. Ryan Stone does not pass the 6-foot test. He's not even a man. So I don't give a Ryan Stone.
I'm going to run that into the ground. You thought Don DeMarco was annoying? Wait till you see these ones. When do we get red pill boxing? Dude, that would actually be fun. Like, did you guys watch the content creator clash? iDubbbz TV did one of those where the guy from Epic Mealtime fought the guy from Game Grumps. Like, these are, if you don't know who these names are, just realize these are like 2012 YouTubers. Dr. Mike fought iDubbbz. Dad, which are really like obscure. I know he was big, but everybody was kind of like, what the hell? Is just like a performance artist. 43-year-old man fighting a 24-year-old who had like 2 inches on him and 10 pounds, and he just beat the fuck out of him. But I thought that'd be so much fun. Like, it was even bad boxing. It's not even good boxing, but it was good to watch. Yeah, and Bergs, you're right. Sam Hyde's content training Harley from Epic Mealtime. And if you really want to get into it, Sam Hyde essentially resurrected the career of Harley from Epic Mealtime and iDubbbz, because iDubbbz had a documentary with him before. So he kind of brought both of those guys back from the dead, and then the fact that he was banned from the event was kind of annoying. It's like, Kevin Savo and Ryan Stone gonna have a height off. I don't know what that one means. You're gonna have to walk me through that. Keep in mind, like, I don't watch a lot of our stuff. I don't watch my videos. I don't watch our videos. I never go back to watch Rule Zero's. I don't watch Rolo's live streams. I'll sometimes pop in, like for him or John or the Rule Zero guys, in to say hi if I'm like at work. During the break, I'll pop in, say hi, how's things, listen for a few minutes. But yeah, so if you're talking about like red-pilled content creators, you pretty much have to like fill me in as if I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm going to make content just to square up with MLD. Those won't happen here, though. That's the problem, is that, again, the world makes no sense. All these guys are trying to be alpha males. Why aren't they trying to fight in the ring? It's because, yeah, nobody wants to fight. Fighting hurts. And here's the problem with fighting. Right now, with all this posturing you see from all the different accounts, if they were to get into a fight, there's only 2 things that really make a man nowadays. It's sex and violence. And if you get in a ring with somebody, even if it's just a boxing match, one of you will lose, 100%. And as confident as everybody is about how good they are, nobody really knows. Like, even in a match where you outclass somebody, maybe you have a height advantage, maybe you have a weight advantage, there's always the chance that somebody can get that lucky shot or that somebody does a couple cheap nut shots and that tires you out just enough to the point where they can knock you the fuck down. So it's easier for everybody to talk tough and then cancel back boxing matches, because that way it's always up in the air. Like, your fans will be like, oh, you'd have beat his ass, and their fans will be like, oh, you'd have beat his ass. But nobody really knows. And I think from an ego perspective, a lot of guys need that consistency. I want to talk a good game, but I don't want to have to follow through. P. McPherson, thank you, sir, for the $19.99 super chat. Cheers to the most impactful Red Pill content creator. Enjoy the videos, the streams, and applicable banter. Well, I can't take all the credit. Yes, I do the video parts, but I will say this. The audience makes the show. And I wholeheartedly believe this. It's not me just fluffing you. I learned this because I'm the guy who, like, when I was in the military, I used to go to Plime and Dig and then Reddit when it first came out and all those places. And you notice this, that they call them flavor posters. Essentially, the audience members that create the most engagement, I guess, or content, whatever you want to refer to it as, who type the most stuff. They shape the atmosphere of the place. They shape the tone of it. They shape the vibe. They shape the code, like the rules and the norms. And from this side, which, moderator, content creator, whatever you want to call it, we have limited ability to do that. Case in point. And it is getting way better lately, but I'll say, like, the first year Rolo was on, huge audience, but probably like the worst chat ever. And it had nothing to do with him. It's just he's one guy and there's 400 assholes in the chats. It's like, what do you expect him to do? But it looks like over time, the rage bait people go and they do rage bait things, and it's cleaned up a lot. And it's kind of nice to see now that it's slowly but surely guys are starting to get it. And then they're curating their own environments for their sensibilities. So this is a shout out to you guys. I'm the cherry flavor poster. You're welcome. Oh, Marty, I swear to God. I swear to God. Yeah, it's the same with all them sports talk shows on ESPN 421. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. How many times you got to watch them say, like, Shaq, do you think you could beat Kobe? And then Shaq's like, I've whooped Kobe's ass. And then Kobe's like, fuck you, Shaq. Well, I guess not anymore. Yeah. Are you making Kobe jokes because you didn't want to make Kevin Samuels jokes? Maybe. Just don't worry about it. Look, I'm not the biggest basketball guy. I learned it all secondhand from my brother. We're off topic. I gotta get back to it. Where was the timer on this one? 33 minutes. Good enough. So here's the actionable part for you. When things don't make sense, what do you do about it? Well, the first thing I've already told you to do, constrict your world until the point where you can control the factors in it so it makes sense to you, which usually ends up being to you, yourself. And then things can come in as they provide value, things leave when they no longer provide value. It's pretty straightforward. Second thing is to understand that a lot of this isn't anybody's fault. It's a technological process. It's the good enough economy. And I've mentioned this once before, so if you're starting to think this sounds familiar, that's probably why you've been paying attention way too much to me on the internet. And I think the best way to articulate it was a Wired magazine article from like 2009 about the good enough economy. And this is not a new thing. It's been a shift we've been making for probably the last 100 years. Started with Coke. Wait, what the hell do you mean Coke? Well, mass production. Mass production created a consistency. Shipping containers made it so ships could unload cargo way faster, because instead of having to unload everything and it's hand bomb every single individual thing, like bananas came in a sack, but engines came in a box and animals came in cages, and it doesn't make any sense. But you make a standardized shipping container. Now, whatever you're loading up, just grab the shipping container. So then you just had one thing and it made it quicker. Coca-Cola, perfect example. The big thing about Coke in the I think it was 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, and that was this comment, and I really don't know who to quote on this one, but the Queen of England drinks the same can of Coke that Marilyn Monroe drinks, that poor people in the Depression drank. It was the great equalizer. The great equalizer. Now, before, it used to be, if you were poor, you had to make your own drinks, and they were kind of poor and shitty. But then when you made a higher quality drink, that was what the aristocrats drank. They drank fine champagne, but the poors were drinking beer. But now beer is mass produced, same as champagne. So everybody's drinking the same champagne. Everybody's drinking the same beer. It's not great. That's the thing people forget. Like when you had like the fountain soda pops that were custom made with your own flavoring, they tasted a lot better, but took more effort. It's actually a word for this. They call it the MP3 effect. And then people started to like the taste of Coke. Candy bars, another perfect example. American candy bar manufacturers were making milk chocolate, but the problem was milk spoiled and they didn't have refrigeration. So there was this chemical they started adding, which spoiled the milk, but it prevented it going rancid. And this is why when you ever see a lot of Europeans and they eat American chocolate, they're like, it tastes like vomit, because that chemical that they use to spoil the milk is the same one that you have in your vomit. Now that's funny enough, but here's the really interesting part. Americans prefer it. They actually prefer it when it's not there. It doesn't taste like puke to them. To them, it just tastes like chocolate. Why is that? Because the President of the United States and Marilyn Monroe and the average guy in the Dust Bowl during the Depression all had the same type of chocolate. It's the great equalizer. It's good, it's fast, it's quick, it's shareable. The one thing it's not is better or higher quality. But it's consistent. McDonald's hamburgers. It's never going to win a hamburger making competition, but it's good enough, and no matter where you go, it's going to be the same middling quality burger. So you may be thinking to yourself, he's been ranting about McDonald's and chocolate and Coke for like 5 minutes now. What does this have to do with getting laid? Tinder. Sex is now the good enough economy. And if I swear to God, if I have to hear another fucking guy with his, oh, I would never sleep with that girl because I want a higher quality something or other, I'm going to laugh my ass off. That's that guy basically wanting suits of armor to be individually made, no mass production. He's Luddite. He's a Luddite throwing shoes into the cogs. How dare these machines? They're going to take my gerbs. Yeah, same with Starbucks. They burn their beans so they're consistent across the board. That's it. But that's the one thing. That's what they do. And here's why this channel's different than other ones. I could give you a 2-hour rant about look what they're doing to you. They're removing quality to make it consistent. They're burning the beans. They're making the Coke shitty. They took out the cocaine. That's what most people do. Here's the thing that no content creator will tell you. Either they don't know or it doesn't fit their grift. The interesting part isn't that a cheap, fast, quick, and shareable product ends up being better. It's that people will adjust their tastes to prefer it. This is what's called the MP3 effect. I think I got it. Do I got a quote? Oh, I do. Okay, here was the quote from it. Blows your fucking mind. Before we get the quote, though, Wet Beaver looking for wood. 5 pounds super chat, sir. Hello, everybody. Any tips on finding Roosh V books like Pussy Paradise or 30 Day Bang? Keeping rocking. Loving your pattern. Oh, wait. Oh, thank you, sir. Wait, did he really? I knew he said he was taking those off. But did he actually take those off? This I gotta see. Yeah, just show me the books. Holy shit, he really did. Well, how about that? Don't Bang Denmark. Dude, that's crazy. What the hell? And Daybang is now $149 on paperback? How does he create his own underground market? That's crazy. Beaver, you might end up having to go back to the Usenets. Back in the day, before everything was available instantly, we used to have to pirate things. And every edgy guy from the 2000s always had a time where he had 500 audiobook downloads, never read a single one of them, he just collected them. It's another reason why, as an author, if somebody's ripping off your stuff, I try not to pay any mind to it, because they were never going to buy, and they probably won't read it, so it's just a file, it's just some bits on a computer somewhere. But Usenet was the original internet before the internet. It was essentially a giant message board, worldwide message board. And everything kind of got to start there. Like, you've heard of alt-fast seduction? The same way you hear there's like HTTPS, www.whatever.com. Well, alt was alternative, and then fast was, I don't know what it stood for, and then seduction was like so it was like little subdomains in each one of the things. But so what people realized is this thing was usually just spread for spending text amongst each other. But if you created a couple thousand text files that just so happened to to be linked to a master file that connects them in just a certain way, you could turn it into a movie. And so in that way, it got out of copyright in that hundreds of thousands of files over across hundreds of different domains would somehow connect together to make a movie file. And that's how most people used to download back then. It was fast. It was easy. You didn't have to, it wasn't like peer-to-peer sharing. So there was no liability on it. It was great. And I have a feeling if you want to find the old Rouge V books, you're going to have to look for those. Now, there's also Pirate Bay. Maybe Pirate Bay will have something. I don't even know. And I'm not suggesting you guys illegally download things. I'm just, spitballing here. If you were an unethical person, how would you go about doing this, and how should you guys not definitely do this? But I don't know. I remember the Usenet started getting cracked down on, so I don't know how and if they work anymore, but that would be your probably best way of doing it. Anyways, back to the quote. Oh. I need to get a fourth monitor, I swear to God. Where did the... What am I looking for? Oh, there it is. There she goes. So Jonathan Berger, a professor of music at Stanford University, recently, in the 2000s, completed a 6-year study of his students. Every year, he asked new arrivals in his class to listen to the same musical excerpts played in a variety of digital formats, from standard MP3s to high-fidelity uncompressed files, and rate their preferences. Every year, he reports, more and more students preferred the sound of MP3s. So what's about MP3? MP3 is and I don't want to get into the technical things of it, but it compresses the file the same way like a phone is able to carry that audio across the line. But you ever notice like you don't hear the bass, you don't hear the higher pitches. It's always just like a very middling thing, to the point now that people use the telephone effect to make their music sound cool, right? And in that same way, MP3s create this like very thin, tinny sound, and there's like a static in the background. Yeah, lossy compression. So you guys, like I said, the ones who know what I'm talking about already know why it works, and those that don't care to learn it. So I'm fine with just like leaving it there. But that was the thing. File sizes, I think WAV format was the original, like that's the best quality you can get. It essentially just marks the peaks and the valleys of any WAV function for audio. But with MP3s, you were able to reduce the file sizes by a factor of, I think, 10, at least 10 or 100. So a 3-minute music track used to be 60 megabytes, which back in the day was huge. You could make it into 3 megabytes, and then people could download it. Then it could be traveling across the network. So it took the bottleneck of internet infrastructure, and it reduced its quality to the point that it was good enough, and it was easily shareable. So like I said before, Coke. Everybody drinks the same Coke. Chocolate. Everybody loves the American chocolate. The issue is not that people reduce the quality of something in order to make it more shareable. The issue is people learn to like what's available. They like what's shareable. They actually condition themselves to prefer it. Because let's face it, most taste is subjective. If you don't believe me, go ask somebody from China what they think of the idea of cheese. Now, if you're like me, cheese is fucking delicious. But a person who's lived in mainland China his whole life thinks you're a fucking idiot. Why would you eat rotten milk? At the same time, they have like a fermented vegetable. Apparently it's got that same umami flavor, but us, we look at it like, ugh. It used to be a meme in 80s films. You remember Bloodsport? There was like a whole scene where they were eating Chinese food in Hong Kong beside Kowloon Walled City. And they were looking at it like, oh, what is this disgusting stuff? What are they eating? Like fish heads? And then they threw it to the dog, and the dog wouldn't even eat it. Yeah. So the taste is subjective. And we can train each other to like one thing or the other. The century egg, great example. The 100-year-old egg, they fucking love it. And up here, you're like, why? Mexican candy, another great example. Mexican doesn't even make their candy sweet. Like, you know what you need? Citric acid and capsicum. That's Mexican candy for you. I had that. Like, it's a sour, fermented cherry covered in chili powder. And I'm like, why would you eat this? My girl's just loving them. So yeah, sex is the same way now. It's the MP3 effect. What do I mean by that? Well, sex became easier. You had the birth control pill. You had Tinder. You had, online dating. You had casual sex. You had the condom. Every technological advancement that makes sex easier, more convenient, with less risk, increases the shareability of sex creates more of an MP3 effect, but also reduces, the quality or whatever. And again, that's a pretty subjective thing. Same as ever. Do you like your chocolate with that spoiled milk flavor in it, or do you not? Or do you like the old French way of doing it? Well, ask anybody now, they're like, dude, cheap chocolate, it's totally where it's at. Even me. Cheap chocolate tastes so good. It's a nostalgic thing. I've trained my brain to like not expensive chocolate when I go to the club. So it's the same way with sex. And everybody here sitting talking about, I want a high quality woman. I want a high quality sexual experience. I don't want to do those cheap sexual flings. It's the same thing as somebody throwing wooden shoes into a gearbox, man. And you know what? It's the issue is that guys are worried the world doesn't make sense. And I'm like, that's okay. It kind of does make sense. You just don't know enough about it. You haven't processed it enough. At the very least, you've tried to connect the dots on things that don't connect. Dude, that stupid naked fun thing is constantly here. Hey, what's going on, Mish? It's good to see you, man. We're talking about our dicks. Why wouldn't you want to? Yeah, the big ass craze is the same thing. So here's the funny part about it. You walk through these implications. With that health at any size, fat bitches or sexy thing, realize, I don't know, everybody keeps saying that attraction is not a choice, but if you ever look at like the woman of Wollendorf, the way women were considered attractive during Paleolithic times, fat bitches were all the rave. Keep in mind, back then it was really hard to get fat. So I would say, if you put it on a long enough timeline, maybe not one generation, but maybe two, you get some professor of music at Stanford, hey, how busty do you like your bitches? And I have a feeling after enough iterations, you're going to start seeing guys like, dude, if she's under $2, I'm not wasting my time on an anorexic chick. Mark Martin, thank you, sir, for the $5 super chat. Excellent show with Rollo on the socio-sexual hierarchy. It was fun, if not funny. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I like nerding out with Rollo, but fuck, do I hate the topics sometimes. It's fun to talk about. Again, it's like a nice off-topic one. We don't do that very often. Oh, where's my manners?
One of the guys who ran the Red Pill channel sent me a message. I actually appreciate that you took it from an idea-based perspective instead of ever resorting to personal attack. Like, if this movement is actually going to be dangerous, do we need to understand it so that we can take it down? I knew going into it that this might be a hot mess. I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Oh, fucking hell. This shit always makes me laugh. Whatever. I'll still never get why people give Rollo so much hate. Like, I see how he acts, and it's not that off-putting. I can see it sometimes being a little bit like, he's okay, but I can't see people like, that guy's a fucking monster. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. Homeschool time, you got a good point, though. We can get to 100 likes. I think so. I think we got the skill to it. So, to be fair, the statue of the skinny girl probably snaps after a few thousand years. The statue shaped as a beach ball doesn't break as easy. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But, we're at where we're at. Of course, I don't think we're going to get to the point where guys are like, yeah, if you don't sleep... what's the thing now? If you don't sleep with a trans person, you're transphobic? No, get down. I'm not buying that, but whatever. Anyways, here's the point of this thing. Yeah, it's like good enough. Shareability matters. Don't worry about your high-quality sex and that. Sex is just sex. It's devolved to the point where it's the MP3 effect. Yeah, there's a little bit of static in that poon. Yeah, it doesn't quite sound as right. There's a little bit of lostness in the compression. Sure, you can up her compression to 320 kilobytes, but it's still not going to be as good as if it was the old school way of courting a girl, having their families going behind you. You finally have sex. You tear off that sundress and go at it. But that's fine. The same poon you're getting is the exact same poon the Queen of England's getting. Which is weird, because when you think about that, it's kind of like the commoditization of a girl's innate value. Which I can see why the TERFs are so mad about that. The trans exclusionary radical feminists. Which is funny, because they were like all against objectification and then objectified themselves at every chance. And now they're at the point that, hey, we've been objectified so much that like our value as a person is now a commodity. What gives? Why can't we be special? It's like, I don't know what to tell you. You made being a girl so cheap that all the guy has to do is grow his hair and throw on a dress, and now he can compete in Olympic sports. Coca-Cola, what can I tell you? Might make a little joking thing, call that Coke and chocolate masculinity. Oh. Rolo's topics seem to be for late people in French. Oh, you guys are so mean. So mean. Who got kicked off that show? Wait, what? Stripper at a gay club? Oh, that. Yeah, Mish, how the hell do you find this stuff? I cannot believe every time I think I got it all figured out in this space, somebody's coming in with like some video with less than 100 views or 500 views of like some random manosphere drama, and it's always people I've never heard of. I'm like, how do you people find this nonsense? I thought I knew all the players, and I kind of did, but now all these new guys are like, dude, in a year, nobody will know who the hell you are. But yeah, Nick Redstar, you're getting it. Mass production of sex. And that's the thing. I don't have any moral judgments about it. You can't get morally outraged about it any more than you can get mad at crops for being different. Like a watermelon looks different now than it does in Renaissance paintings. You can get mad at the watermelon because it's not a moral watermelon. It's like, no. Things change, things evolve, things are manipulated in our environment. We genetically alter them, and that's the case here. Technology wins. In a battle between morals and technology, technology always wins because morality is a coping strategy to evolved technology. Like, do you think hunter-gatherer tribes gave a shit about if somebody was cheating on somebody? Nobody gave a shit. Marriage didn't exist. Guys were just like, dude, whoever can smash, go smash. Whichever one of you hits the jackpot and knocks it up, that's great. Grandmother's taking care of it anyway. Property rights came because, we had to grow crops, and you can't grow crops if somebody can just take your land the next day, so you have to own your land. Now you need marriage because now there's ownership rights. Now you need marriage to establish hierarchy and paternity and all that shit. And that came around. Industrial Revolution detached the idea of production from labor. So now you got a situation where guys aren't really as attached. You don't have to be as attached to the land. You can be transitory. So we've kind of pushed back towards a weird hybrid scenario where there is still ownership, institutions of marriage and such like that. But at the same time, we're pretty laissez-faire about it. Like, yeah, you can cheat if you want to. It's not illegal, but it's not like you can leave her if you want, or you can stick around. And that's why you're seeing all this shit. And everybody's like, nothing makes sense and nobody is happy. It's not that nothing makes sense. We're also in an experimental time. Don't forget, if you look at how human progression has happened or human change, we're still in like the novelty phase of information. The internet's 15 years old, 20 years old, something like that. It's a blip. There's a single generation. Like, imagine somebody, like, there's these old videos on YouTube, you see them in the 1930s of people who were alive for the Napoleonic War, talking about industrialization and cars and shit like that, which just boggles the mind. Yes, I remember when I fought Napoleon at Waterloo. Anyways, I'm going to get in my Chevrolet and drive to work right now. And you're like, that's how fast things can happen. Now imagine that person had a kid. That kid is born, raised, and talks about, yes, my first car, the first car was built. Now he's talking about the space shuttle. And now we're at that same point. Yes, back in my day, you kind of stayed in your hometown, you worked at the mill, and now it's like, dude, I just got 800 notches this month on Tinder. It's like, what do you expect? Some people are going to adapt to it in all kinds of different ways, because essentially, the masculine gender is the experiment. We're always the experiment. We got highs, we got lows. Our bell curve is flatter and wider, and girls is straight and narrow, because girls are always in the middle. They're the consistency. Guys are the experiments. So what do you think? There's some like crisis of masculinity? It's like, no, guys are running all kinds of experiments. Hey, do you want to be cucked? Yeah, I'll try it out. Why not? Some guy's like, hell no, I'm an honor killer. And you're like, all right, so you got these two extremes. Guy lets a girl run roughshod over him, cucking. Guy is over here murdering any girl who looks at him cross-eyed because he's an alpha male. And there's guys in the middle who are like just trying to keep things on the even keel. And little experiments happen left, right, and center. And how's it going to play out? I don't fucking know. Nobody knows. In 1,000 years, we're all going to be dead, and this will all have sorted itself out, or there's some new change, and everything's going to be in flux anyway. So yeah, the world makes no sense. Nothing's consistent, and that's okay. You have to learn to be okay with that. It's an adaptive skill. If you don't have it, you might as well just lay down and die, because it's not going to change. Yeah, the red pill was a massive evolutionary leap, and we're still catching up. Well, here's the thing. It's an adaptive change to an environmental change and technological change. Now, there's no guarantee it's right, but it pretty much is, because we have a precedent for it. It's the scientific method applied to sexual relationships and Evo Psych, right? And not in the way we think of now, like, do you have a source for that in a researched paper? That's performative fucking make work shit. I'm not saying science is bad. I'm saying the current iteration of the scientific method is mostly bureaucracy. It's not in the old days where people would test things and tinker in their garages and come up with conclusions and discover the atom while he's working at a patent office. Like, that's the kind of place we're at now. We're at the Albert Einstein of sexual dynamics. Somewhere out there is some guy working in a random office somewhere, sending emails, and just figured out the perfect thing. And, you know, maybe it's Rollo, maybe it's Athel K, maybe it's me. Who fucking knows? Who cares? Get yours. Torsha, 1999 super chat. Thank you very much, madam. Can I call you madam? Are we that familiar? Can you talk about some red-pilled concepts, arguments that stern from religious beliefs under the guise of, I don't know, science? Lol, I don't know. If that made sense, we learned about it in philo or philosophy in college, shaming single moms but against abortion. A little bit, if we got some time. Actually, you know, we can talk about it now. Funny enough, if you actually are curious about this from red pill perspective, there is a book called Manosphere. I think it's Ian Ironwood wrote it. Manosphere ! He has a fairly good section in there about the religious degradation of shit. But yeah, it's the same thing here. When you're talking about religious beliefs under the guise of science, they were all adaptive. Now, religion was never attempting to be scientific. They were just what I would call like outcome-based, or what they call it, consequentialism. Same as red pill, which is kind of why a lot of people get that like weird culty vibes from it, which I get. So religions were like, okay, you can't eat pork. People stopped dying of pork-related illnesses. Yay, we fixed it. It's because God said pork is bad. Did God really say that, though? Not so much, but you stop eating it. Same thing with sex. Abortion is bad. And the only reason for that is because we need more babies to be in the church. They need more people to fight the crusades. So if you put a brake on people having kids, it's a bad thing. So what do? Oh, you make it sacrilegious. That's why everybody's like, I don't get it. How come you care about babies and that's why you don't want abortion, but as soon as the baby grows up, you don't give two shits about them? It's because, like, that's not the goal, man. The goal is just to make as much as possible. It's about controlling women. No, it's not. It's about increasing population. That's why Catholics are just crushing it in the third world right now, because that's where the population booms are. And so the Catholics went down there and they're like, dude, you are going to love this. It's like Jesus and paintings and buildings and funky hats. Get in on it. And the whole, like, trying to square the circle with science and religion, it's just, that's a weird adaptation guys are trying to use, where they think that the reason people aren't ascribing to religious principles the way they used to is because they don't want to, or they don't believe it. Like, you have to persuade them, like it's a sales pitch. So they think, well, if they like science, well, I'm just going to find a way to fit science into religion. And it's obviously it's ham-fisted and doesn't work, because it's fundamentally misunderstanding that it's an adaptive trait. Religious institutions are an adaptive trait to an environmental problem, due to a change in environment. That's why, and I could get into that, but I don't speak very eloquently on the switch from like polytheistic deities to monotheistic, but that's what I mean. It adapts the same way. Yeah, and the shaming single moms, again, that's because men don't work unless they have an incentive. And the only incentive the church has, there's only two incentives. One, when you die, you're going to go to someplace great and wonderful, and you'll love it. And two, here's a wife. Here's a wife and some kids you can trade your legacy in and keep going. And we won't let her leave. She can't leave. No matter what, as long as you follow the godly way, you get a wife. And everybody's like, wow, that's great. So yeah, that's why they shame single moms. Now, I mean, you see them wrapping that up with science too, where they're like, single mom kids are 15% more likely to take Adderall and 30% more likely to shoot up a school and twice as likely to this. And I don't really care about the stats. It's not the point of this. But that's the exact same thing as when, what's that dude, that evangelical dude who tried to recreate Noah's Ark and explain how dinosaur bones were like a test of faith, but he's using like scientific method to research it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Unfortunately, I don't know if those statistics hold up as much as we'd like them to. Mostly because, and this is going to be a COVID reference. Remember with COVID, where all of a sudden people who had gotten vaccinated were getting COVID more often than people that were unvaccinated? And I think people misunderstood those statistics. They were like, look at this, the vaccine is causing COVID. It's like, no. They were doing these studies in places like Israel, where 90% of the people were vaccinated. So Just there was nobody there to catch COVID other than the vaccinated people. And we could argue the vaccine didn't do what it said to do. Those Pfizer documents coming out saying what they say. Yeah, I get all that stuff. That's not the point. The point here is just to illustrate an idea. And this idea was people took correlation and meant it to make causation. And it's the same thing here with single moms. I don't think you can make the case that a fatherless household now is going to make serial killers or school shooters, because everybody's from a broken home. So there's like no control group to compare it to. Like, how many stable families are there really? Less than 50%. Less than 50%. And of those, how many of them are functional, happy households? I'd say at least less than 50% of them. And even those ones, how many of those ones that are the remaining 25%, how many of those are second marriages? How many of those are out of wedlock marriages? You see what I mean? And it's not even that, like, I could be wrong and this is absolutely true and it is a causation and that's 100%. But we don't even know yet. Like, we can't know. But everybody, I learned what I need to learn. It says what I need to say. And then they're trying to think, how do you fix this? Well, is it a problem? How much is it a problem? Is it something you could change? Is it a technological shift? Which I would say yes. Women don't need men anymore. They just don't. So yeah, you can leave anytime. Nothing can stop you. If you really wanted to remove single moms from the equation, do you realize how big of a shift you would have to make in so many different major institutions? You would have to make no-fault divorce illegal or remove its legality. Not only that, you would have to massively increase the size of courts to handle the influx of cases. That's another thing. A lot of these legal changes are because there's just not enough lawyers out there. And here's the thing. You add all these extra lawyers and all these extra judges to handle these extra cases of no-fault divorce that are now at-fault divorce. There's only so many people that are qualified enough to be lawyers. You're going to add all these extra lawyers. You're going to take a hit in quality. We added women to the military. Same thing. What did you do? What was the first thing you had to do? Well, if we want to keep them in, we got to reduce the physical PT tests in order to accommodate them. So now you got a bunch of people that remove the quality of a system. Cheap, fast economy, shareable. Now the military is full of people who are too fat to fight, and that's a Pentagon quote from, I think, 2008. And that's just it. It's not evil. It's an adaptation. In this case, the population boomed. The court system couldn't find enough qualified, talented people to keep up with the cases that were going into it, and so they had to make certain things expedited. And in this case, making divorce a no-fault divorce system where it wasn't an argument of, are you legally allowed to separate, but, all right, fill out this workbook, we'll rubber stamp it, whatever. And feminists kind of pushed in there. It's like, well, let's just push these check marks to this area so she gets more. And that's just because there's not enough people that are good lawyers. And you can't. You could make as much education as you want to, but everybody has some innate talents. And some people just are not going to be innately talented enough to be a lawyer. And even if there were, what else could they be doing? What's the opportunity cost? Well, now we just lost a bunch of engineers that are now in law school. We lost a bunch of doctors that are now in law school. We lost a bunch of programmers in the San Francisco Bay Area to be legal scholars. It's like, well. So yeah, it's not evil. It's just, capabilities you do with what you got. So in this case, we need to keep the court system from crumbling. So we remove the illegality of so many things. We remove the requirement of courts to deal with things. You don't like it? I don't know. Maybe we should have done something about that boom that went from 1 billion people to 8 billion people in less than a generation. That's way too fast. And that's even the thing. If single mom kids aren't going to have a good outcome, we've got the law of large numbers. Again, we used to have high-quality people, loving parents, good families, raised to be the best. But then here's the problem. Now it's cheap, it's fast, it's quick. It's the MP3 of people. Just a single mom, that's fine. One guy knocks up 10, that's fine too. A bunch of incels, they're not having sex. Yeah, just get it all in there. And again, just like my article, ask your doctor if Thotrazone is right for you. People are just adjusting to the point where they actually like that taste of chocolate. In this case, yeah, single moms are great. You're big, you're strong, you're that. Every year, more people become accepting of single moms, of fat broads, of layabout MGTOWs. It's at the point now that, like, there's a comedian. I love it. If you guys ever watch him, he's Ryan Long, and his buddy, I can never remember his guy's name. It's a longer name. But he calls it the, what is it called? The male cast? Oh, the High Value Male podcast, like MALE. But it's MAIL, so like he reads out your mail, and his background is the sad MGTOW apartment. It's so funny, it's a laugh. Like back in the day, people would look at that like a pariah. It's like, dude, this guy's an evil, evil bachelor. But no, it's cheap, fast, it's quick, and now we're sharing. I prefer the taste of that chocolate. It's actually good for a joke. Yeah, I was watching VP. Oh, whatever. Is America a case of too big, too fast? It's not just America, dude. It's worldwide. I still laugh at this when people like don't realize, like, when you talk to somebody about what is Africa, and this is why guys like Rolo and me have like nice African audiences. You know, he can keep his Kenya. I got Zambia. I got South Africa. Those are the good ones. Oh yeah. Yeah, we've switched to the sunrise and sunset color themes from the synthwave stuff. But yeah, six pack's getting it, no saving it, but there's no saving. That's just it. You're not asking to save it. What you're asking is to revert things back to the way they were, which means you need the technology to revert back to the way it was, to create the conditions that that thing could thrive. Yeah, with internet, things are now spread global. And that's the thing, the internet doesn't make this stuff, it just makes it faster. I would argue with this food surplus that we have now, arguably this stuff was all going to happen. The internet just makes it spread faster, which I guess is good so we can get to the end state. No, I understand American culture is 50%. Oh, back to the Africa thing. Yeah. So like when you tell somebody, yeah, if you want to go to Africa, and you're like, no, what do you think? You think shanty towns, AK-47s, and like militia guys fighting in the jungle or something like that. But have you ever gone down to Africa? They've got some nice cities, dude. Like there's African countries that only got their independence maybe 10 years ago that have cities that are all nicer than like Baltimore or Philadelphia. They're safer, they're cleaner, they're nicer. Not to mention China's paying a shit ton of money to like take all the minerals out of there, and they're leaving infrastructure in their wake, kind of like the Brits did with India. Oh yeah, malaria. Yeah, it's just a nice place to live now. Everybody got a cell phone. Yeah, there'll be some cultural differences, but it was the one thing I kind of learned on my travels is that how small the world really is. I always thought, oh, these cultures are all so different in that. And then by the time I had finished circumnavigating the globe, I realized it's like no matter where I go, it's going to be generally the same. I still tell the joke when I was in Dubai at Rock Bottom. It's the expat bar. And there's a bunch of chicks in there that were like hookers, but then the Palestinian guy and the Iranian guys were fighting in the street, threw a brick at another guy's Lambo. I'm like, this is the same redneck fight that I used to have back in my hometown. The only difference is it's a Lamborghini instead of an F-150. Like, oh. I go to Oman. We're in a Bedouin camp. Fucking Bedouin camp. In the desert. Camels. All that shit. And what's happening? The one chick there in the group and her cousins are just like ribbing her ass because I guess she like thought one of the guys we were with was cute. I never did find out which one of us. I'm assuming it's me, but it doesn't matter. And the guys are making fun of her for it. I'm like, dude, this is exactly how my Christmas is spent, minus the desert and the camels and the robes. We just sit there in a circle and make fun of my sister. Oh, buddy has a crush on you. Ah, you fucking idiot. People are about the same. Tokyo, same thing. I'm sitting there watching the Giants play baseball in a Japanese whiskey bar in downtown Tokyo. Dude in a business suit. Didn't speak a lick of English other than, you like baseball? I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I remember my best anime Japanese. Nani? Nandesu ka? Itashe wa? Itaro bakaru. Shit like that. What did Cowboy Bebop say? Say that. Okay. He kept asking who Akira was, but I'm like, don't worry about it. It's always you hunk. You know, Sashel, you and I, we're going to get along just fine. Will Rogers crowed about driving new car to poor house. Yeah. So yeah, all these countries were basically the same. Thailand was essentially the same. It didn't look any, like, I will say this. When I was in Phuket, Thailand, it was back in 2008. And I went to Patong Alley to party there and have fun with the girls. And in 2018, when I went to downtown Orlando to go get drunk, they have like the circle of like bars that are outdoor. With few exceptions, I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. I mean, the only difference was that people were a lot fatter in Orlando than they were in Thailand, but there was a lot less ladyboys there. So it's like your trade-offs. Still just as much prostitution. Still just as many, ugly-ass Australian-looking guys in cargo shorts and T-shirts. Still the same amount of people fucking, but is it like some chick trying to like sell you pussy for $20, or is it some chick that's just like, yeah, buy me drinks for the night and I'll take you home? It's like, what's the difference? Everything's basically the same now. It's because humans are the same. Everybody always talks about this, oh, the global homo thing. It's like everybody's so different. It's like, well, the food's different, the culture's different, the clothes are a little different, but humans are still humans. Just because you're Muslim doesn't mean you're not a normal man, the same as anybody else. Like, hell, Mish, apparently he lives like next door to Mecca. I don't know, whatever. I don't know how the place has worked out there. And he and I, we talk, we generally have the same experiences when it comes to women, when it comes to dating, when it comes to marriage, when it comes to all this stuff. We're all the same. Less ladyboys. I know. we gotta commoditize that, huh? Mark Martin, sir, thank you for the $5 super chat. Hey Ryan, the Johnny and Amber show is over, like you said on your show title. Everybody will always be crazy. Oh yeah, that one. Dude, I'm laughing my ass off. Like, my girl was hooked on that. She used to like stand in front of the TV, like jumping, like, oh, they're doing the thing. And I'm like, all right. And I couldn't judge her. I'm like, you know what? I made you watch like 14 hours of Senate hearings over the truck convoy and the Emergency Measures Act. So it's like, I don't have a leg to stand on here, but at the same time, I'm like, it's still kind of stupid. And I remember at one point I sat there and watching some of the trial with her, and they're asking questions and establishing this. I'm like, I don't understand what the lawyer's trying to establish. She says, what do you mean? It's like, well, like every time you watch, like I've watched court cases before, a lot of boring stuff, and usually they make a clear case, like you are trying to establish this fact for the court, so then they have to say, like, if this is true and this is true, then this is true, then the person's guilty or the person's innocent. But they never got there. It was just like this random meandering soap opera, and I was like, holy fuck. So nobody really gave a shit about the law. They just liked the idea of seeing the dreamy heartthrob bitching out that chick that everybody hated. She's a 40-year-old chick that scowls, and her sister's got a mean mug, and the girls are there cheering on Johnny. He's like, Johnny, I'll suck your dick. And he's like, thanks, ladies. I'm just going to take this water bottle and go in there and draw some pictures. It's just fucking weird. Then that was the weirdest part, too, where like the world makes no sense. The world makes no sense. How many guys sat there acting like Johnny was like, dudes, remember that Me Too thing? Here, I got this, bro. I'll fix it for you. The Me Too era has ended. I'm like, dude, the Me Too era never started. A bunch of sociopaths are suing a bunch of other sociopaths wearing feminism like a skin suit. I don't know what you want to think. Well, I mean, Sash, you could say it's American media, and you might be right, you might not be, but here's the point. Like, who cares? It's there. It's there now. That's all it is. Yeah, hold my Coke. Anyways, so this is the gist of it. So here, sum it up. I'm going to do it here. 112. Just realize, from your red pill perspective, in your red pill life, I see the super chat, I'll get to it in just a second. Nothing makes sense. Everybody is crazy. The reason they're doing it is because everybody's experimenting because the landscape has changed and nobody knows how to adapt to it yet. It's okay that everything can be crazy. It's okay that nothing makes sense. It's okay that formal hierarchies of communication and relationships have given way to informal ones. The only solutions out of it, have game, learn to adapt, and shrink your world to the point that you can control it, which means your mental point of origin. And that's, like I said, this is all a convoluted hour and 13-minute pep talk, but you know what? Fuck it. I got to prep for the next one. We are going to shit on male role models. And I'm thinking I'm going to kind of carry on to that same effect where it's guys are experimenting on what makes a man now. And then everybody's cheerleading one side or the other side. And everybody's hoping they pick the right one. And it's amazing how ego-invested guys get onto their guru being better than your guru, even to the point that you can be on camera sucking dick, and then your guys will still be like, no, this is my masculine coach, man. I don't care. Real men suck dick. And you're like, I don't fucking know what to tell you. Yeah, you establish... oh, here we go. Actually, Chesty, I didn't want to ask about the trial, but I guess we are asking. You establish foundation by actually having the person who said the statement testify. Easy. All the money needed was there. Have the person testify. Funny how that works, isn't it? Because, yeah, that's all hearsay is like you can't tell the court what a third party said. The third party has to be there. But again, it was all theater. I'm pretty sure like Johnny doesn't really care about the money and anything. It was almost like a sales pitch to Hollywood. It's like, hey, they love me again. Like I have a feeling only thing that Johnny needed during that trial was that group of chicks outside the courthouse every day, like with armed security getting Johnny in. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll hire him for another pirate movie. You might find Richard Hakluyt's Discourse of Western Planting interesting from a historic side of things, written in 1585 or around there. Yeah, maybe. I have a hard time with that level of English. Holy shit. They just added a new update to Windows where it gives you like Bitcoin prices. Luna's down 99.38%. Tisk tisk. He can only claim 350 was his trial to clear his name. He won 13 million. Here's the thing though. Yes, all that's true. Sunny Waffles, you're absolutely right, but like who cares? Does this make your life any better in one way? I mean, unless you're bored and you just need the entertainment, sure. But I mean, I got a back catalog of mids watches and red-pilled coffees that could keep you interested if that's the thing. Maybe you need to learn a little bit about the trial because you're going to smash your Tinder date and she knows all about the trial, so it gives you something to talk about. In that case, no shame, no harm, no foul. And I don't mean to shit on Donnie here, but if you're watching your red-pilled content creator live stream episodes of Love Island talking about, see, this is how men and women act, I don't know what to tell you. It's like reality TV is scripted. Even though the interactions are genuine, the editor makes you think what he wants you to think. So you're basically basing your masculinity off of some writer in a room somewhere who thinks he knows what he's doing, but he's probably an incel anyway. But do what you want. Anyways, so we're just going to do some banter. I'm probably going to get off in the next 4 minutes, though, because I got to do some last-minute prep for the Rule Zero. About killing your role models. Hopefully you like the thumbnail on that one. I worked on that one for a good 3 minutes longer than I normally work on thumbnails. So, let me see. Legit never cared about the trial. The memes for the dog stepped on a bee or gold. Yeah, some of them are kind of... The one that got me... What was the new meme on that one? It was... how she dressed before Johnny's stylist hired her, and she looks like a frump and shit like that. It's just basically open hunting season on sociopath white women. I was like, holy fuck. The topic is about role models. 3 minutes we can really tell. Shut your mouth, Marty. You know what? It's been a while. It's been a while, Marty. Speaking of 3 minutes, let's give 300 seconds for Marty. Oh, wait, did I do that right? Okay, good. I thought I hit him from channel. I'm like, no, I just gave him the timeout. The Real Zero Book, a great conversation. I'm hoping so. Like I said, it's always... Actually, you know what? Here. So we'll do some like behind, like fourth wall talking here. So with the Rule Zero stuff, it's always interesting. You can set up a topic. And what I usually try to do on topics is I pick stuff that I know... Because I already know what John and Troy and Rolo talk about. So there's certain topics you can kind of know play to their strengths. What I'm trying to do now is pick stuff that doesn't, and then keep people from moving towards those same strengths. Because you've seen it a few times where things kind of go off topic. People go back to the safe, comfortable conversations. I probably won't succeed on it, but it'll be fun anyway to kind of keep people outside of a comfort zone and then set up so that everybody can contribute with their strengths. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a fun thing anyway. So I got some notes on that. We'll see how it goes. Mark Martin, thank you again. $5 super chat, sir. You know what would be very funny is if you have a ton of men at the courtroom yelling, "We love you, Amber. I want to have your baby." Dude, that would be fucked. Keep them uncomfortable. Great content today, thanks. Well, honestly, I like it because here's the thing. Like, I know the guys not personally, right? I remember that a lot of people like, oh, why do you guys have John? He's such an asshole. I'm like, yeah, it's just John. It's just John being Don. You don't know him like I do, which sounds like the way an abuser talks about his abusee. But hear me out. When we talk off topic, off brand and stuff like that, stuff's pretty interesting. And I really do think the audience has done a disservice, which, I mean, to be fair, everybody is running a business, their own individual brands and businesses. Hey, what's up, buddy? They say if you do this and your dog puts his head in your lap that he likes you. Yeah, there we go. So we'll see. I just like every now and then on these episodes to give you guys a little bit of fourth wall break so you can see there's human beings behind, because there's nothing that bothers me more than those one-dimensional brands. And I don't want to name names because a lot of them are guys that, you know, people that I like, and some of them are maybe even I find them enjoyable, but I already know behind the scenes they're nothing like that. Like Adam Kriegler and I, we had that one thing that he was trying so hard to be diplomatic about it, but He found it very difficult when some of the content creators he knew would talk about, morality and shit, but then behind the scenes, totally hypocritical. And so I would hate for us to turn to these one-dimensional caricatures. So every now and then I like to show there's a human being behind this brand, and they're still people. And the day that it comes where I'm talking to another content creator and I can only talk to their brand and I can't talk to them is probably the day that I'll part ways. Drives me nuts. But like I said, the Rule Zero guys are a switched on bunch of dudes. I don't think that's ever going to happen with us. And if it does, well, it was fun while it lasted. But nah, they'll be fine. Did some real dumb shit in Phuket. Regret none of it. Oh, really, Ian? Because usually when people talk about doing really dumb shit in Phuket, nobody's talking about the ping pong balls or the turtles or the birds or Madame Wong's ass smacking good time. There's only really one dumb shit thing that people did in Phuket. Well, two, I guess. The one is taking Viagra. A lot of us sailors would grind it up and drop it in people's beers because we thought it'd be funny, and then guys are like, I have a giant erection and I don't know why. You're laughing. But the other thing is, yeah, lady boys. Why did I private my tweets? Oh, really no reason. I didn't for any reason. My growth's been kind of like up and down and kind of slow on there anyway, so I'm like, it's going to go private now. I literally have no reason to do it. Having said that, it does make it nice because I don't have to be as diplomatic when I quote tweet dumb shit anymore because they're not going to see it. So I don't have to worry about getting reported. Oh, rest in peace, by the way. Turns out Whisper, one of the OGs from the Red Pill, finally got suspended over some random bullshit. Very annoying. So if you want to see his stuff, you got to head to the Red Archive or trp.red. On that note, I don't think I got much else for you.
I love the way girls smell. I love how they always make sure, by and large, they shower, and they just have an amazing smell to them in general.
I am never going to not dunk on that fucking guy. I got it today. It's going to be here in about an hour. Zane, I'm going to end off on your question, then we're going to cancel. Then we're going to end it, unless you guys put a super chat in. It's the only way you're keeping me here at this point. You got to pay for the time. Will Rule Zero ever do live call-ins from the viewers? No. At least I won't. And this is going to sound bad, but the reason is y'all suck to hear ramble. And I don't mean this as a pejorative. It's because it takes a bit of work. If you listen to our first podcast, we kind of were like horrible at stringing a sentence together. The cadence was off. It sounded weird. There was awkward silences, talking over each other. You get one of you guys in, like, hey, yeah, ask your question, sir. And it's always like mumbling and like, they don't know what they're going to say. And it just makes for horrible, horrible, horrible content. That's why I like the super chats, because when you're forced to put your words together onto a page, it's at least more eloquent. And in the case where you get something like, I don't know, Torsh, with your like seventh, I don't know, like whatever's. At least then I can kind of like, all right, I can read this with some flair. I don't know, science, lol, I don't know. That's actually probably one of my favorite super chats to read right now. Like, whatevs. Anyways, we're done. Go have some breakfast. Go have a quick Smash session with the wife. We'll see you guys in like an hour. Oh, I almost forgot, Brojo. Did I say your thing about the 420? Thanks for the 420 super chat. Great content today. Thanks. Hey, no worries, man. Enjoy yourselves. Cheers, boys.